Hi and welcome back. Today I'm going to show you the process that I use to build these three set squares in a size that's a little more appropriate for a blacksmith shop. I can build all of these using only a pair of dividers and a straight edge, and to do that I need to start with the equilateral triangle. An equilateral triangle has three sides that are equal in length, and as a result each corner has a 60-degree angle. The next triangle that I'll be making is the 30, 60, 90 triangle, and it's contained within the equilateral triangle. And finally, the 30, 60, 90 triangle is going to give me the 90-degree corner that I can use to set up the 45, 90 set square. I'm going to be making these set squares out of heavy gauge sheet metal, so they should stand up a lot better than the drafting set squares I've been using. This piece of sheet metal was cut in a shear, so I know that I have two parallel edges and a square reference edge that I can use to set up these squares. I'm going to use this corner to set up the 45-90 set square because I want that one to be as large as possible, and I'll work everything else around that. The 45-90 set square has two sides that are equal in length and a square 90-degree corner. So in this case, the length of the sides is going to equal the width of this plate. So I'm setting up my dividers for that, and I'm scribing that mark on the long side of this piece of sheet metal. To complete the triangle, I just need to draw a line from the opposite corner to the scribe line that I just created on the long side of the plate. This will give me a right angle triangle that has a 90-degree corner and two 45-degree corners. Next, I'm going to be setting up my equilateral triangle on the opposite side of the plate. Now this edge has a rough cut. It doesn't have a factory edge on it. So I'm going to be working about 1/8 of an inch away from the corner and scribing in my triangle at that point. Once again, I'm using the width of the plate as my baseline, and I'm going to scribe an arc from the two ends of that baseline, and where those arcs meet is going to be the location of the point of the triangle opposite the baseline. This will also place the point of the triangle directly over the center of the baseline. When you connect those 3 points, you will have a triangle that has 3 equal sides and a 60-degree angle in each corner. To set up the 30, 60, 90 triangle, I need to divide this equilateral triangle down the middle. So I need to be able to draw a perfectly straight line from the point of the triangle down to the center of the baseline. So I'm going to use the same method that I used to find the point of the triangle to set up another point within the triangle that I can use to line up my straight edge to drop a vertical line that'll cut this equilateral triangle in half. So now you can see how this center line cuts the 60-degree angle at the top of the triangle in half, making it 30 degrees, and it creates a 90-degree angle at the baseline. Now you don't have to cut out this equilateral triangle if you just want to make the 30, 60, 90 and the 45, 90 set squares. You can lay this all out on a piece of cardboard or masonite or something and just transfer the measurements to your metal. You would start out by using your dividers to lay out the baseline. Then you would take your dividers and take a measurement of the short side of the triangle and scribe that in as an arc, and then go over and take the long side of the triangle and scribe that in as an arc. Then you would connect the two ends of the baseline to this intersecting point, and you're going to wind up with a perfect triangle that has a 30, 60, and a 90-degree corner. And you can use this to make any triangle. When you're making a triangle, if the sides are exactly the right length, all you need to do is to connect those 3 corners, and you're going to have exactly the triangle that you want. In this situation, I am going to be cutting out the equilateral triangle, and I know that I have a good reference edge that I can use. So I'm going to start by drawing a sloping line that's parallel to the 60-degree line on the equilateral triangle, and then I'm going to be using a speed square on the reference edge to figure out where I want the vertical line to wind up. I'm trying to get this set square to be as large as possible. It has a 90-degree corner, so that means it's going to be used a lot for setting things up. Now that I have the large triangles laid out, I'm just going to play around and figure out where I can fit in 3 smaller versions of these triangles. Next, I'm going to be using my angle grinder to separate these pieces from the plate. To do that, I've installed a pretty simple base plate. It's just held in place with one of the screw holes that's intended to be used for the handle. My original idea was to have the base plate adjustable so I can set the depth of cut and use it pretty much the same way you would a circular saw, but once I started using it, I realized that all you really need is to support the front edge of the grinder so that it doesn't tend to dig in too quickly, and that makes it really easy to guide the cutting wheel along a line. So that's how I use it now. So if you want to put something like this together, all you really need is a bar that comes down in front of the cutting wheel so you can rest it and adjust the depth of cut by simply rotating the end of the angle grinder. So here are the finished set squares and the triangles. Once I've filed the edges smooth, I've double checked everything using the dividers to make sure that all the measurements check out and I do have true angles, and obviously I used my protractor to make sure that everything worked out, and they are amazingly accurate right off the cutting table. So I was actually pretty impressed with how it worked out. I've spent a fair amount of time on these, making sure that all the edges are true and the angles are right, because I'm going to be using these as the patterns for all the other set squares and triangles that I'm going to be using in the shop. So the idea is if I keep these clean, I should be able to quickly replace anything that gets too damaged, from use in the shop. So these triangles that I just finished basically give me preset angles every 30 degrees from 30 to 90 with that 45-degree angle thrown in there. So what I need to be able to set up all the other angles is a small 30-degree wedge that I can use as a protractor to fill in those gaps. I start by cutting out a small 30-60 set square. So the two bevels are going to give me my 30-degree angle, and if I scribe an arc on the one side of this triangle, that'll give me the radius of my protractor. Next, I'm going to divide that arc into 3 equal spaces. It's really important to have these marks line up exactly. So I start measuring from one edge, and then to check those measurements, I'll measure from the other edge, and I make small adjustments until the measurements from both directions line up exactly. And the final step is to divide each of those sections into 5. So the markings represent all the even numbers from 2 to 10. And if I need to find an odd number, I just estimate a middle point between 2 of those marks. Using this system makes it a lot easier to set up, and it's all the accuracy that I need when I'm setting up stuff. So this is an example of how I would use this set square. Let's say that I'm trying to set up a 50-degree angle on a piece of work. I have the 45-degree set square set up. And to that, I'm going to be adding a 5-degree angle from the protractor. And that is between the 4 and the 6 marking on the protractor. So to find all the other angles, I can continue this simple system up until 90 degrees because I have a 60-degree set square. To go beyond 90, I would start combining the set squares and adding up those angles to give me the base angle that I'd be working from, and then using my protractor to fill in the blanks. This is not a great system if you're working with odd angles all the time, but for what I do, this is just perfect for me, because maybe I'll need to do this once or twice a year. Usually I'm using the 45 and the 90. So this is the system that I'm going to be using in my shop. I've wanted to do this for years, and I've often ran into situations where I regretted not taking the time to build this. So I hope this gives you some ideas of, how you can build this system or modify it to suit your needs. Hi, I'm Dennis, and thanks for watching. If you have any questions, you can contact me by using the email address that I have shown here. If you like the channel and the work that I'm doing, please consider becoming a patron. Every dollar you contribute will bring me one step closer to being able to produce videos full-time.